The Preamble, the great exhale. Listen closely to the frequency of the present moment. Can you hear it? Beneath the cacophony of the news cycles, beneath the grinding gears of the global economy, and beneath the frantic beating of your own anxious heart, there is a silence waiting to be breached. We stand now at the precipice of a temporal shift. The horizon of 2026 is not merely a change in the calendar. It is a confrontation with the architecture of your own soul. The world, in its mechanical, samsaric rhythm, is already preparing to extract more from you. The great machine is designed to ask for volume. It demands velocity. It screams for optimization. The external machinery of this society is engineered to convince you through every screen, every billboard, and every notification that you are a project that is unfinished. It tells you that you are a problem that needs to be solved, a machine that requires a software upgrade, a deficiency that must be filled with consumption. But what if the timeline you are racing against does not actually exist? What if the year ahead is whispering a request that is diametrically opposed to the screaming of the world? What if 2026 is not asking you to become louder, faster, or more accomplished? What if the year is quietly, yet ruthlessly, demanding that you become grounded, honest, and still? We are standing on the edge of a collective physiological and spiritual burnout. For the vast majority of your existence, the aperture of your attention has been forced open by violence, the violence of noise. You have been directed outward at the blinding lights of responsibility, the chaotic data streams of other people's opinions, and the relentless, hungry theater of achievement. You were inducted into a dangerous algorithm, a false dharma, which taught you that your value is a metric calculated by your productivity, and that your pieces a reward you are only permitted to taste after you have pleased everyone else in the room. This is not just a bad habit. This is a violation of your fundamental nature. It is a treason against the spirit. The ancient wisdom traditions, specifically through the diamond-sharp lenses of the Abhidhamma, the psychological depth of Yogacara, and the dialectic deconstruction of Madhyamaka, offer a counter-invitation. This is not a request to escape the world to a mountain cave, nor to abandon your duties to drift into nihilism. It asks for something far more radical. It asks for a parivridia complete, turning about of the seat of consciousness. A shift from the object to the subject, from the noise to the witness, from the desperate actor to the silent observer. Peace does not begin when the external world finally settles down. Let us be clear, the world will never settle down. Samsara is, by definition, the cycle of dissatisfaction, movement, and friction. To wait for the world to be quiet is to wait for the ocean to stop being wet. Peace begins when you stop neglecting the internal architecture of your own being. In this transmission, we will perform surgery on your perception. We will deconstruct 10 noble truths, 10 architectural pillars for the year 2026. These are not self-help hacks. These are ontological shifts. We are moving from a state of constant, high-frequency tension to a state of manifested calm. Take a slow breath. Feel the oxygen flood the lower lobes of your lungs, expanding the ribcage, asserting your existence in space. Let the digital static fade. Let us begin the return. 1. The violence of agreement. One of the most subtle, yet devastating forms of violence we inflict upon ourselves is the yes that should have been a no. We must look at this through the microscopic lens of the Abhidhamma. When a request comes to you, an invitation, a demand for your time, a plea for your energy, and you feel that immediate constriction in your gut, yet your mouth opens and says yes, what has actually occurred? If we frame that microsecond of consciousness, we see a chaotic interplay of unwholesome mental factors. We see lobha not for money, but for approval. We see moha, the false belief that your worth is tied to your utility. And primarily, we see bhaya, the primal terror of rejection, of being seen as selfish, of being cast out of the tribe. This is not kindness. This is self-abandonment disguised as virtue. When you agree to a request while your entire nervous system is screaming in protest, you are creating a fracture in your psyche. You are training your body to believe that your inner reality is secondary to someone else's comfort. You are drinking poison to quench another person's thirst. Over time, this act of self-betrayal deposits a storehouse seed in your alaya consciousness. This is a seed of resentment. It sits there in the dark soil of your subconscious, watering itself with every forced smile and every reluctant obligation. Eventually, it will sprout. It will bloom into anger, burnout, or disease. You think you are keeping the peace. No, you are merely internalizing the war. You are swallowing the tension so the other person doesn't have to feel it. You are becoming a landfill for other people's expectations. The 2026 shift. In the coming year, you must practice the holy pause. This is the Vajra stop. Before you agree to anything, you stop. You locate the sensation in the biology of the avatar. Is there a constriction in the solar plexus? A tightness in the throat? A heaviness in the chest? That is the wisdom of the body speaking before the logic of the mind can manipulate the truth. Who benefits when you override your biological limits? Only the people who are comfortable using you as a battery. Compassion, in the Mahayana tradition, is not idiocy. It must include self-compassion. If you are drained, your generosity is actually just a high-interest loan that you will eventually resent the world for not paying back. To choose yourself is not to become a narcissist. It is to recognize that you cannot pour from an empty cup. You are the vessel. If the vessel cracks, the water is lost. Honor the vessel. To the Hall of Mirrors. We are living in an era of hyper-visibility. A digital panopticon where the highlight reels of billions are broadcast directly into the intimate spaces of our pockets. Comparison has shifted from a biological mechanism of tribal survival to a psychological cancer metastasizing in the collective mind. From the perspective of Madhyamaka, or the middle way, comparison is a logical fallacy. It is a cognitive error of the highest order. Why? Because comparison relies on the existence of two inherently existing, static entities, me and you. But Buddhism teaches sunyata, emptiness. You are not a static object, you are a flowing river of conditions, genetics, trauma, and choices. The person you are comparing yourself to is also a flowing river of conditions. When you look at someone else's success, you are committing a category error. You are comparing your insides to their outsides. You are comparing your multidimensional, messy, complex reality to their dimensional, curated, flattened image. This creates dukkha. It makes you feel late. But let us shatter this illusion. There is no such thing as being late in a life that has no standardized timeline. A flower does not bloom late compared to a tree. They operate on different biological clocks. To ask the flower to be a tree is violence. The 2026 shift: when the poison of envy arises while scrolling, do not judge it. Do not suppress it. Use the Yogacara technique of mirror, wisdom. Realize that the envy is just a reflection. It is data. If you envy the writer, it is because there is a writer inside you clamoring for the pen. If you envy the traveler, it is because your soul is hungry for the horizon. The envy is not about them. They are just the trigger. The envy is a signal about you. Ask yourself, Truth, who am I becoming when no one is watching? The race is a hallucination. There is no track. There is no finish line. There is no referee. There is only the quality of your steps in this present moment. If you are rushing, you are missing the only life you actually have. 3. The Alchemy of Solitude. There is a profound linguistic, experiential, and energetic difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the pain of being alone. It is a deficiency. It is the beggar seeking a coin. Solitude is the glory of being alone. It is the king sitting on his throne. It is fullness. In our modern configuration, we are terrified of silence. We fill every gap with podcasts, texting, and scrolling. Why? Because when the noise stops, the alaya consciousness opens up. The trapdoor unlocks. The suppressed thoughts, the grief we didn't process 3 years ago, the fears we ignored, they all float to the surface like debris in a rising tide. We treat silence like a vacuum that must be filled. But the Dharma teaches that silence is not emptiness, it is the womb of potential. When you are constantly surrounded by others or digital noise, you are never actually meeting yourself. You are only meeting your reactions to external stimuli. You are a ping-pong ball bouncing off the walls of culture. To know your true face, the face you had before your parents were born. As the Zen masters demand, you must sit in the presence of your own mind without distraction. The 2026 shift. This year, you must reclaim sacred boredom. You must enter the blast furnace of solitude. Sit in a room without your phone. Drink tea without reading the news. Walk the street without headphones. At first, the withdrawal symptoms of the ego will kick in. You will feel fidgety. Your brain will scream for a hit of dopamine. It will feel like you are dying. Good. Let the false self die. Stay in the fire. Beneath that fidgeting is a deep, oceanic calm waiting to be accessed. When you learn to be a companion to yourself, you become indestructible. You no longer enter relationships out of desperation or hunger, but out of overflow and generosity. You stop looking for a home in other people because you have built a cathedral inside your own ribs for the gardener's hands. The root of anxiety is the arrogance of believing we can control the weather. We spend tremendous amounts of energy trying to manipulate outcomes, manage other people's perceptions of us, and predict the future. This is the clinging that the Buddha identified as the engine of suffering. We believe that if we just worry enough, if we just plan enough, we can bend reality to our will. The Madhyamaka philosophy teaches pratityasamappada dependent origination. This means that every event in your life is the result of infinite conditions, most of which we're completely outside your jurisdiction. You are not the general of the universe, you are a participant in it. Think of a gardener. A gardener can prepare the soil. They can plant the seed with precision. They can water the earth. But the gardener cannot force the seed to sprout. The gardener cannot pull the sun closer to the earth. The gardener cannot command the rain clouds. To try and pull the sprout up by hand to make it grow faster is to kill it. The 2026 shift. You must identify the razor-thin boundary between your circle of action and the circle of concern. Your effort, your integrity, your words, your preparation, these are yours. These are the seeds. The outcome, the reaction of others, the timing of the universe, the economic trends, these belong to the Tao, to the Dharma, to the great flow. When you surrender the need to control the outcome, you gain something far more valuable, a presence. You stop bracing for impact. Your shoulders drop 3 inches. You move from a mechanic mindset, which treats life like a broken engine to be fixed, to a surfer mindset, which treats life like a wave to be ridden. The wave is not under your control, but your balance is. 5. The softness of resilience. There is a misconception in our hyper-masculine culture that to survive a harsh world, you must become harsh. We confuse cynicism with wisdom. We confuse numbness with strength. We armor our hearts, thinking it protects us. But look at nature. Look at the physics of survival. What is hard like a dry, brittle branch snaps in the wind. What is soft like bamboo or water yields, bends, and survives. Buddhism teaches that unhealed pain calcifies. It turns into samskaras, mental formations that act like armor. But this armor doesn't just keep pain out. It keeps life out. It keeps joy out. It keeps intimacy out. When you ignore your wounds, they do not vanish. They retreat into the shadow. They run your life from the basement. A person who hasn't healed their betrayal trauma will see betrayal in every innocent handshake. A person who hasn't healed their fear of abandonment will suffocate their partners with jealousy. The armor becomes a prison. The 2026 shift. Healing is not a project to be completed. It is a way of relating to the present moment. Instead of hardening against your emotions, practice holding them. When sadness arises, do not say, "I shouldn't feel this." Do not push it away. That is violence. Say, "I see you, sadness. You are welcome here." This is the tantric approach, using the energy of the emotion itself to liberate the emotion. You don't need to dig up the past endlessly. You just need to stop resisting the feeling right now. Softness is the ultimate courage. It takes no bravery to be cynical, that is the coward's way. It takes terrifying bravery to remain open, hearted in a world that breaks things. Be the water, not the rock. The water always wins in the end. 6. The acoustics of the soul. Why is it so hard to make decisions? Why does intuition feel so faint, like a radio signal from a dying star? Because the signal-to-noise ratio of your life is distorted. Your mind is a receiver, a finely tuned instrument of consciousness. If you are jamming the frequency with constant consumption, news, gossip, social media, busy work, arguments, you cannot hear the subtle broadcast of your own wisdom. The Abhidhamma describes the mind as a rapid stream of consciousness moments. If every moment is filled with sensory data, there is no gap for insight to arise. Wisdom requires space. It requires a gap in the clouds. Simplicity is not just an aesthetic choice like minimalism. It is a spiritual survival strategy. It is the act of removing the non-essential so the essential can speak. The 2026 shift. Conduct a Dharma audit of your life. Be ruthless. What obligations are you carrying out of habit? What relationships drain your vital life force? What digital inputs make you feel inadequate or angry? Ruthlessly eliminate them. This is nekkhamma renunciation. It doesn't mean living in poverty, it means living in clarity. It means refusing to eat garbage. When you simplify your external world, your internal world amplifies. You suddenly know exactly what to do, because you aren't drowning in options. You don't need more information, or you need less distraction. You need to clear the channel. 7. The open palm. There is a profound misunderstanding of the concept of non-attachment. People think the goal is to become a robot, untouched by love or loss, cold and distant. This is false. This is nihilism, not dharma. True non-attachment is simply love without clinging. Think of holding water. If you clench your fist to hold the water tight, if you try to possess it, it all squirts out. You lose it. But if you cup your hands open, if you create a cradle, you can hold the water. You are in contact with it. You feel its coolness. You honor its wetness. But you are not crushing it. Attachment is the crushing. Attachment says, this must stay exactly as it is forever for me to be happy. That is a fight against reality, because reality is anicca, impermanence. Everything that arises must pass away. To fight this is to break your own heart. Non-attachment says, I love this deeply, and I know it is temporary, so I will cherish it even more. The flower is beautiful because it dies. The 2026 shift. Love your people, your work, and your life with ferocity. But keep your hands open. When you accept that everything is on loan, your health, your parents, your career, your you stop taking them for granted. The awareness of death brings the vibrancy of life. Let things come. Let things go. Be the sky, not the weather. The weather changes, the sky remains. 8. The snake in the skin. You are carrying a corpse. The corpse is the you from 5 years ago. The you that needed to be a people pleaser to survive high school. The you that needed to be a workaholic to prove your father wrong. The you that defined itself by a relationship that has ended. That version of you served its purpose. It got you here. It was a necessary vehicle, but it cannot take you further. It is dead weight. Buddhism teaches anatta, no self. This doesn't mean you don't exist. It means you possess no fixed, permanent self. You are a process. You are a verb, not a noun. Suffering arises when we try to freeze the process. We say, I am the responsible one. So when we are tired, we feel guilty. We say, I am the successful one. So when we fail, we feel destroyed. We become slaves to our own labels. The 2026 shift. Identify the label that is suffocating you. Are you the strong friend, the black sheep, the fixer, the victim? Ritualistically shed this skin. Like a snake sloughing off the old to allow for the new growth, you must peel away these dead identities. It is terrifying to drop an identity because we fear the void. If I am not the busy one, who am I? You are the space in which the business happened. You are the canvas, not the painting. Allow yourself to be a beginner again. Allow yourself to be inconsistent. You are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. Reinvent yourself in the fire of the present. 9. The spiral path. The greatest myth of spiritual practice is that you achieve focus and then you keep it forever. That you reach enlightenment and the work is done. No, the nature of the mind is to wander. The nature of the monkey mind is to jump from branch to branch, seeking sweetness, avoiding pain. The practice is not about never leaving. The practice is about the return. Every time you catch yourself scrolling, Every time you catch yourself spiraling into anxiety, every time you catch yourself seeking validation, that moment of catching is the victory. That is the moment of awakening. That is the gold. Do not berate yourself. Do not say, I am so bad at mindfulness. That is just the ego trying to sneak in the back door. Just say, I drifted, coming back. The 2026 shift. View your life as a series of returns. You will get lost. You will get angry. You will forget all the wisdom in this transmission. That is okay. That is part of the design. The return is the muscle we are building. The path is not a straight line, it is a spiral. We pass the same lessons again and again, but each time from a higher vantage point. Make your baseline a place of safety, not judgment. If your internal home is a place where you are yelled at for being late, you will never want to go home. If your internal home is warm, forgiving, and illuminated with the golden light of compassion, you will run back to it every time you get lost in the cold world. 10. The weapon of gentleness. We have been brainwashed to believe that force is the only language reality understands. We think we must conquer our goals, beat the competition, fight our demons, and crush it. But have you ever tried to fight a demon? It feeds on the energy of the fight. It grows larger. It loves your aggression. Madhyamaka teaches that since things lack inherent existence, they are fluid. You don't need a hammer to shape water. You need a vessel. You need gravity. You need flow. Gentleness is not weakness. Gentleness is efficiency. Tension creates friction. Friction creates heat and waste. Gentleness is the aerodynamic flow of the spirit. It is the path of least resistance and maximum impact. When you are gentle with yourself, your nervous system down regulates. You move out of fight or flight and into rest and digest. From this place, your intelligence skyrockets. Your creativity unlocks. Your intuition speaks. The 2026 shift. Declare a ceasefire with yourself. End the civil war inside your body. Put down the weapons of self-criticism. When you make a mistake, treat yourself like you would a small child learning to walk. You don't scream at the child. You pick them up. You dust them off. You encourage them to try again. A life guided by gentleness is sustainable. A life guided by force is a slow march toward a heart attack. Be the eye of the storm. Let the world spin in its chaos. You stay soft. You stay centered. The Manifesto Prose of 2026. So here we stand, the threshold of the future, the gate of 2026. The world will try to pull you into its velocity. It will try to monetize your attention and weaponize your insecurities. It will try to convince you that you are not enough, but you now hold the blueprint of the Dharma. You possess the Vajra, the diamond thunderbolt of wisdom that cuts through delusion. You know that you do not need to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You know that comparison is a thief of joy. You know that solitude is a sanctuary, not a sentence. You know that your gentleness is your ultimate weapon. 2026 is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. It is an excavation. It is a returning. This path is not easy. It runs counter to the current of the entire civilization. You will be swimming upstream, but it is the only path that leads to a destination worth reaching. Walk slowly. Breathe deeply. Ground yourself in the earth of your own being. The year ahead is yours, not to conquer, but to inhabit. If this transmission resonated with the architecture of your soul, If you felt the shift from noise, signal can signal, anchoring this energy. Leave a mark, a like, a comment to signal to the algorithm and to the universe that you are choosing depth over speed. Subscribe to stay connected to this frequency. We are building the Sangha of the return. Initiate the return.